Hello, Billies and Gentlecolts. Welcome to another session of MLPC Radio with Amonisis, Sarf, and Shade. Say hello to the audience, folks.
Hey.
Yay, hi!
All right, very good. And today we're going to cover depression.
Kind of a weighty subject, that one.
Depression.
Don't have any questions. We had a couple weeks hiatus due to my own personal issues. And unintentionally in that time, the rest of MLPC Radio decided to go ahead and do nothing at the same time. Everything just kind of fell apart. So, realizing where my place was, I have decided to come back. And
that shows that people follow you, man.
In spirit of the reason that I left, I decided to do this particular topic.
So you're the question.
Oh, yes. Apparently.
You are the question.
That's one way of looking at it, I suppose.
Well, I thought he was an object, but okay. He is the question.
And he's also the answer.
Yes.
How peculiar.
We might have some answers, we might not, but let's get a good discussion going. Anyways, anyone have anything to start us off with?
Not really.
Well, I will just shamelessly repeat my question earlier, and that is basically just starting from the get-go. Why did you just suddenly decide, OMG, this is over, and like, and run out of the room?
Personal stuff I don't want to go, yeah, essentially run out of the room. Personal stuff I don't want to go over with, but I think doing what we do sometimes, it helps, and maybe not everybody realizes, but a lot of us, we say what we say out of experience, and not always because we can say from where we are, everything's gonna be alright, hugs and love and all that type of stuff. Doesn't mean that everything is always perfect for us. I don't want to quite mean it like that, but
that reminds me of a quote. I heard it a while back. A good amount of people do lie in their lifetime. Like, everyone lies at some point. And the number one lie that people tell is, I'm okay. Showing that, a lot of people that are going through rough times, having depression or whatnot, they don't want to show it to everyone. And they want to keep it hidden away from their friends and family and whoever might be worried about them. So they just say, I'm all right. I'm doing fine. Please don't pay attention to me.
I think that is a facade I'm definitely guilty of in many ways. A lot of times in LNA threads and things like that, people ask how I am, and I'll say, fantastic. : right bracket, smiley face, exclamation mark. Not always is it so true, but sometimes I think just having the cheerful attitude rubs off a bit. But as I was saying, sometimes we come from our own personal experience, and that's how we can discuss such things. And I think I've said many times before, I'm not really afraid to talk about it in my own past when I've had dealings with it, and I've definitely experienced that type of stuff.
I believe everyone has experienced some form of it one way or the other. I know I have my stories, and I'm sure Shade has his stories too. I mean, hey, that's a good way to go at the subject. Just talk about our own personal stories and see where it goes from there.
I think that's definitely,
whatever's comfortable, I mean.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for this. Well, my fact sheets.
That's all right. You can go last if you want to.
I'll just steal your stories. Great.
Well, I have to say my stories first in order for you to steal them, so that doesn't work.
Well, that's how it goes. You go first, and then I'll just somehow end up having a similar story.
Okay, fine. I will go first. All right, story of depression. Well, I wasn't always the happy-go-lucky person that I am normally. A lot of people see me online, and I, do the whole give advice, those cool text threads, a lot of Rainbow Dash, and I'm very much into, trying to be optimistic and happy. But I wasn't always like that. In fact, back during middle school and the beginning of high school, I was probably one of the most cynical, depressed guys that you could ever meet. I was always like, I wasn't like goth or emo, but I was definitely just reserved from everyone and pretty much hated everything about everyone. And I just kind of felt isolated from the world, you know? And eventually, to a point, like when I was 15, I went through a month where I just, I felt like I couldn't go through this anymore. Like, it was just kind of tearing me apart. I felt so alone. My home life was a wreck. My school life, I had very few friends, and I just hated being around them. And it really did come down to a simple choice, whether or not, do I want to continue in this progression, or do I want to find something to hold on to and just anything to pull myself out of it? Well, one specific night, I just went out for a walk. I mean, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it really was a big deal for me. I just took a walk around that block, and at the same time, it was the longest, but also one of the most insightful walks I ever took, and because I really seriously thought about what I wanted for my life. And since then, I started, looking into all sorts of things, philosophy, religion, theology, and went through many different types of phases in my life where I just tried to better myself over and over again. And I just built myself up from there. And I've never had or never will claim to have a normal life or a normal way of dealing with people, but I have to say I am kind of thankful for all those experiences, only because it sort of gave me a goggles point of view to look at other people with a more empathetic look, as opposed to just plain ass hating them like I used to. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's my story.
It's a good story, I think. I also had this thought occur, like right at the chicken end of it, which is that when you think about it, I don't think really anybody is all that normal. They just present themselves as being fairly normal and being socially in tune, as it were, with the surroundings.
Yeah,
they blend
that's
in.
One of the things I learned too. It's just that everyone tries to be normal, in a sense, by saying what they want other people to hear, and trying to keep a face of normalcy, even though that's not nearly what their original internal feelings say. And I found that's actually it's both good and bad. Good in the sense that it kind of makes you feel part of a group, but bad in that you don't freely express yourself and you don't kind of grow out of that until you get out of your comfort zone to do so.
Hence the tendency to just say that you're doing fine, because you routinely ask each other if you're doing fine. And if everybody says, I'm fine, you, fine, thanks, then you actually sort of collectively believe that, everything is okay in some way, at least for other people, it's okay. I might be experiencing inner despair over here in my little corner, but at least no one else will be able to catch on to that. So we're okay for the moment.
Yeah.
No awkwardness or anything like that. And certainly not, let's not discuss our feelings or anything like that. Oh, that's just way too hokey. Let's not go there.
Yeah, I mean, who discusses feelings? Come on, that's kind of girly shit right there, huh?
We don't have feelings over here.
Yeah, that's another thing, especially for us guys. I don't know about you guys, but we live in a pro-masculine culture that doesn't really emphasize guys expressing their own feelings. So they have to pretend to be tough and be they have to stand tall even if they don't feel like it type shit. Oh, sorry.
That's a lengthy subject I think we could go into for a long time, but let's not.
Yeah. That's a different thing. That could be our next week's subject.
Oh, no.
I think you're going to something off the beaten track of advice column.
No, that's perfect.
How not to be a man.
Well, how to be a man by not being a man in the
least
societal
man.
Man.
Anyways, off track. Let's continue with the depression talk.
Well, shall I tell my life story then in a depressing nutshell?
I'll free the next 40 minutes of my time. I'm just
Well, I'll just lead it in with saying that I believe I was the single most bullied kid in primary school. I was white and I wore glasses. It was a very unique combination, very frightful, and the odd one out.
To give it perspective on that in itself is that you're a lot older than what most of our listeners are going to be. So, being that time, you probably went to school.
Well, I tell you this: my favorite cartoons. I liked the Grizzly Adams and My Little Pony. Yeah, that's right. So you can
imagine. You're a brony.
Yes.
Yeah,
G1 go represent.
That kind of does give a perspective on it because we do live in a different time where the glasses and things like that aren't really.
Yeah, back then, there were like 3 kids in school who wore glasses, and I happened to be the most effeminate, nice, and intelligent one of them. So, and that's not a bragging point. I just say that most kids weren't very bright. Let's put it like that.
You probably were an easy picker for them, huh? Just saying.
Yeah, but
you're probably easy to pick on.
Well, I was the last kid of the litter, which means I was quite lacking in testosterone and raised by a single parent, my mom. So my pacifistic ways were not very effective. The whole don't pay attention to them and they will stop thing. I've tried that for like 16 years. Doesn't quite work. That whole they'll stop thing. No. It's true that they are looking for a reaction and they move on if they don't get a reaction. But the thing is, they don't have to get a reaction from you. They can get it from other kids who happen to be looking and seeing that they're being the alpha man by beating this other kid. Yeah. So that started from an early age for me. And I've got my first thoughts about suicide around the age of 10. So that was a nice, perfect age to start with that sort of try to end your existence thing. And all those existential thoughts of mortality that went along with it ran wild in my head brain for quite a while. And I clung to the idea that on high school, things would just be okay now, because then I'll be locked up with the more intelligent people, and they will be less ignorant and more enlightened and all that. Well, thing is, they were just intelligent bullies. Doesn't really help, does it? No, the spiraling depression went onwards, and there was really nothing in my life at all worth enjoying. At all. Nothing. And it was so bad that when I escaped school and I vowed to myself never to do this nonsense again and never to really take an active part in society, I needed a couple of years of a little bit of an alcohol binge to sort of do nothing with my life, just to sort of calm the chicken down, as it were. And eventually, as I just probably similar to Emma's story, I sort of got a handle on doing things my own, sort of having control of my own life, asserting control by making my own clock, my own schedule, my own plans. And I started learning, I started just digesting, especially when late in the 90s, I got internet access and I just ate the internet and all the information. Yeah, I ate the internet, but I didn't swallow it.
That's a pretty big dish.
Well, there was some really inopportune garnish here and there, but we can't speak about that on this show. But I learned so much more on my own time and from my own willingness to learn than I ever did in school. I got nothing out of it. It was absolutely useless, a waste of my time in every sense of the word. I just ceremonially burned the diplomas I got just to prove the point, as it were. and making my own time, finding my cutie mark, etc., etc., and thinking everything was fine, and I was doing a lot better. But a couple of years ago, I got some relationship drama and stuff like that, and there it was again. It's always lurking, the depression. Is if something bad happens, just sort of spiral back into your whole negative self in no time. But thankfully, I had a lot of years to sort of build my inner positivity, and I could get over that eventually, just by, again, reverting to making the answers myself. You have to make up the answers. You can't sort of wait for answers to come in life. Yeah. You have to make them up.
Yeah, you already experienced it once before, and now that you build up your happiness and understand it better, when it comes back, you know how to tackle it, and you're growing from your own experiences, and you're basically learning how to basically make yourself the guy you want to be, regardless of education or not.
And figuring out what it is that makes you happy, and just not stopping or like getting into a circle of apathy and depression that sort of limits you and cripples your every movement.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had this personal stuff, and then the podcast flip, as it were. But now you're back in, as it were. But what made you sort of come back, as it were? Can I ask you that question? Is that okay?
I don't think I really wanted to leave. I went through a bit of a thing, I suppose, where I kind of realized, even though it had been my ambition for a little while about being a social worker and things like that, it wasn't a very realistic one. And thus I've gotten over that, and I think I'm going to move on to better things. But it was just kind of a challenging thing at the time, as I realized different things, and the approach that I've always given never really quite worked. It's extremely complicated.
Well,
but for a while, I think I was doing what I was doing with the wrong outlook completely. And as I've taken a few weeks off, I've also kind of avoided the LNA threads, and I've avoided really talking to many people about the subject or subjects. You know what I mean? And as I have, I've really looked at everything that I've been doing, and I think it's definitely changed. That's for sure. That's for sure.
But it's not
I can
really...
definitely sympathize with that. I mean, yeah, I know the feel as well of, doing something for so long that used to work, but then you realize it's not really working anymore. And you get so used to that kind of mind frame that it's hard to let go of. And when you finally do, it does feel kind of...
realizing everything that I was doing was absolutely wrong, and I was handling with the wrong approach completely. So I just had to stop altogether and look at myself going, what the fuck am I doing?
Well, let me ask you, did you do it with the best of intent?
Leaving?
Well, yes. What was your intention behind leaving?
I suppose initially to kind of look at things, and really I just wanted to get away from it.
All right, so you were basically self-reflecting.
Yeah, I mean that was the main intent initially. I guess it was a lot of irrational blundering that really shouldn't have happened. I like to think I've gotten over making the stupid, sudden, desperate threads, but I really haven't.
Well, step back. It's good to look at what you were doing and stop the bad stuff. I mean, the road to success is paved with failure, so you realize where you were doing wrong, what was going wrong, and you step back to look and analyze it. I think that was a good move on your part, Sarf.
And every time you have stumble on the side from your good decisions and your bad decisions, you learn something new. And, so you say that you sort of blundered and said silly things on the internet. Well, that's kind of the thing with depression. You see, when you sort of lose control in one area, you want to you want to do something desperately. You want to do something you do control. And these decisions rarely are like the best decisions, of course. But hey, that's why they're emotional decisions.
Exactly.
It's like a relationship or something. Where you do all these silly things and they don't make much sense. But hey, you gotta follow your heart.
I suppose we've reached the spot where I'm supposed to talk about my own situations and experiences.
If you want to.
If you want to, we will not make you, okay?
No, I'm the one who pushes this stupid show, so...
Well, I like this stupid show, so keep going.
Yeah, well, I stick with it for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Well, it goes back quite a few years, I think. Everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but almost everybody's goes through their angsty teen years or identity crisis and things like that, and really trying to find yourself. And it's a challenging experience for everyone. Not everyone handles it the same. With my own, I think I didn't really realize who I was. I didn't really have any direction which way or that of who I was trying to be, who I wanted to be, until a very short few years ago. And for quite a while I was just an angsty teen, and I don't really remember a lot of what it was, but I know my mindset has changed, and just the way I think has changed drastically in the last couple of years. But going back to when I was actually depressed, I think what initially brought it on, it wasn't its only reason, but what initially brought it on was thinking that I had found an excellent relationship. And I hate talking about this because it was so stupid and naive of me to do. But when it ended, when I wasn't seeing it as clear as I thought it was, she had really just dated me. Things ended, and I was absolutely heartbroken for 7 or 8 months, and I commend what she did at that point, because she didn't completely lose contact with me. We kept emailing back and forth for quite a long time. And during that time, it was really her that convinced me to go see the school counselor, because I was so desperate at some point that I was sick of everything. I had completely socially removed myself. I was that loner kid that sits in a corner that wears black clothes and just kind of minds himself, doesn't talk to anyone. I guess Amonisis used the word reserved. That's quite fitting.
Yeah. you and I were of the same cloth there, bro. I know those feels, man.
Even then you were linked. Did you both see a rainbow in the distance?
Oh, goodness, no.
Say what?
I said, oh, goodness, no. And as I was saying, no, I got to the point of seeing the school counselor, who eventually forwarded me to a professional counselor and phoned my parents and things like that. And I think that day, I remember very clearly that it was definitely a traumatic day, to say the least, for quite a long time. It's hard to look back on, realizing how silly some of what I was thinking at the time really was.
I am going to... I'm sorry. No. I may interrupt. I'm going to say something that will sound crass to any younger listeners, because I am young myself, but there are people who are younger.
Terribly young.
And I will just say that it's until you reach a certain age, and certainly like before you're like whatever, like 23, 25 or something, you're not really fully done yet, and your mind is still adjusting to your growing body and all that. Okay. And you'll discover when you're like reaching a certain age,
reaching maturity,
you see things with more nuances and less severity. And I'm not saying that any sadness or depression you're experiencing now in your younger life is wrong, Not at all, but you'll be better equipped to deal with the things that are negative that you were right about. And you will discover things aren't quite so black and white as you used to think. And you'll discover like, oh, I was wrong about this. And now you learn more things, and you'll be better equipped, have the emotional baggage, as it were to deal with life. And sort of don't be afraid that if you don't quite know what to do with your life. This is like, everybody has this, really. Mm-hmm. Nobody really knows what the chicken they're gonna be. And some people are like 40 years old and they don't quite know what they're gonna do next. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're unfulfilled or don't have a happy life or anything like that. You discover what makes you happy. Don't decide beforehand what you have to do. Sort of hold on if you're in a tricky spot when you're young, and try to pay attention to the good things, because those are the things that will help you through those years.
And regardless of how bad things seem at any one point in time, it will always get better. That's one thing I definitely learned. I felt like I was at the lowest of my low at that point, but I just stuck through, and eventually I came out to here, and I'm doing fantastic in my life. I'm really happy.
Can definitely feel that feeling like you've hit rock bottom completely, and after I hit rock bottom, everything just kind of sort of went back up.
People are like rubber balls like that. You throw them against the ground, they hit rock bottom, they bounce right back up.
I started seeing the professional counselor at that point. I was put on medication, and I think it's one of the most notoriously addictive prescriptions for antidepressants that you can get, and it was to handle like anxiety, things like that. And I think what I learned from the counselor is it was one of the most valuable things that I've gotten, because as the year went forward, I stopped seeing the counselor after a while. I kind of went off into my own life. And in June of last year, I stopped taking the medication. I still had a lot of papers and things like that, and these stupid little booklets on depression and these fill-in-the-blank pages. Like, it got to the point where the counseling was more like it was something oriented towards a 12-year-old. It was kiddish stuff, filling in the blanks, and you write on a piece of paper how you feel, and ridiculous crap like that turns out to be a lot more valuable than what you really think it is at the time. I took all that stuff after the last time I got off the medication, and before I started kind of weaning myself off, mind you, you're supposedly supposed to go down 10%. I went down by 50% each time. Got to the point, first weeks of June, I went through complete medical withdrawal. Basically, I had the shakes. If you don't know what that is, you lose nerve control when you start shaking and stuff like that. I had near diabetic symptoms.
My
blood sugar went to like 3.0.
That's intense.
Yeah. The first day before when I went to see the doctor, I could have sworn I had diabetes or something, because, like I said, I had such low blood sugar, I couldn't feel my fingertips, I went completely pale, I was stuttering when I was talking, I couldn't walk right, I couldn't sit in class because my arm was shaking and banging the computer. And pretty much what the doctor told me is I could go back on the medication, or I could continue going off. From that point further, I think I still went down by 50%, but it was essentially at that point cold turkey. The week or two after that wasn't as bad as the first day, but the shaking was horrendous. People used to stare at me walking through public. I had a cashier nearly throw my change at me because he thought I was some kind of junkie, I suppose. The principal called me into the office, and she asked me why I was like that, and she actually had to confirm my story with my parents, because I suppose she assumed I was some kind of drug addict or something like that. And I can't imagine what I would have looked at the time, but it was...
Technically, they would be right. But...
Yeah, technically, but, you were taking the medical reasons.
It was, for medical reasons, and I cut myself off, and I never looked back. After about a week after I took the last pill, I went to... And I've never told really many people this, but I went into the fire pit we have in the back. I took all those stupid papers from the counselor. I took all this stuff. I had actually a diary I made online where I was putting all this stuff whenever I was feeling like terrible. I would be writing stuff. I had taken it offline, put it completely on the disk, then put the disk in the fire as well, and I burned it all. There was nothing left of it. And I think that was probably at that point when you just realize everything is just done, and you've moved on.
That's the second time we've mentioned ceremonial burnings. It seems to be a recurring theme.
And I think somebody at the time, because I was posting, I was a brony at the time, and I was posting on PonyChan. I think a couple of people wondered why I would be doing that, but as fire heals, it's the most purifying thing there is.
It's a nice ritual. You'll watch this natural element take place before your eyes.
You know, to this day, the shaking, the tremors never really went away. My arms twitching a little bit as I speak when I get nervous. Sometimes I'm stressed out, or even just the occasional time. Most Wednesday nights, if I'm at church, I can't control my arms, so I sit in the back because I'm just kind of shaking.
Have you considered seeing those spa ponies about that?
Oh yeah, spa pony treatments, nice little mud bath and whatnot.
The hoof cure?
Yeah. Anyways,
a nice hoof cure do it.
Yeah, hoof cure would be nice. Fire does tend to have this kind of sort of special element to it where it just kind of connects with you, and when you see something getting burned away, it feels like a purification. There's even types of meditation where you just stare at like a candle or stare into a fire for a long period of time, and it helps clarify and clear the thoughts out and allows you to kind of unclutch from sort of these elements of negative thinking and increase your energy and focus. It's really weird, but it's really cool. So, yeah.
Well,
burning your past is pretty awesome.
And contrary to popular belief, meditation is not really about physically doing nothing. It's about doing one really small thing and doing it constantly in such a rhythmic manner. It helps
the way that I think of meditation is that it's like a meta look at your own thought process.
The way I've kind of always looked at it, because I know there is I hate to cut you off, sorry, but I know there is a kind of stigma sometimes. People are afraid of getting addicted. Like I said, I was on one of the most notoriously addictive antidepressants there is, citalopram. Wasn't one of the best ones to try to get off of. But what it really did is it didn't mask the problem. It didn't hide it away or anything like that. It clears your head, because just like depression clouds your head, it unmotivates you. It takes away your ability, your want, and motivation to do anything. The antidepressants clear your head and let you look at things again. And then I think after you go through it all, you get off the medication, and when you finally your head's clear, you can look at things and you want to do things that even beforehand you never wanted to do, because you feel like you've missed out.
Yeah, you got lots to catch up on, and you just want to get at it again.
Depression just sort of makes your soul tired, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But I've got a question for you both. Just wondering. So, in your lifetime experiences with depression, you must have, at least in earlier stages of depression, had this sensation, this gnawing sensation that the feeling you were having right then would be permanent and be with you forever.
I don't really thought it was permanent, because it starts out as an emotion. It just like sadness and happiness and joyfulness, it's an emotion. And then as you feel it more and more, you kind of fall into the pit, because I've saw a quote somewhere, and I couldn't name it off right now, and I'm not going to spend the time to look for it, but it kind of mentioned that depression is sometimes comforting, because you don't, all you really know is the pain, and you don't want to go out to explore new things, because it's something you know, it's something you become comfortable with, and as you become comfortable with it, changes from being an emotion to an affliction.
Yeah,
there is where I was going with
comfort. Anyways, what? I'm sorry.
That was where I was going with that, because when you have that sort of that sensation where you just don't see yourself not being depressed anymore, that's sort of your system getting used to it and getting comfortable with your inner negativity, as it were. And that's the point where you have to deny yourself, as it were. That's the point where you say, no more. I'm gonna crawl out of this pit.
Yeah, I basically had to force myself to that because I wasn't taking any more of that crap. It was either death or getting back to being alive. And, at 15 years old, I kind of wanted to live a little more,
I wish I could say I was so motivated, but I really wasn't at the time, and as things kind of went out. And I definitely learned as I was off the medication, I kind of went back into the real world, as it were. I kind of realized that it never really went away, and I know some people, they experience things differently, but I still do get depressed time to time. If I haven't done anything with my day, if I'm doing nothing for a long time, then I kind of get melancholic, really.
I understand the feel, bro. I definitely do.
But what counseling taught me is really how to deal with it. If I feel like I haven't done anything, I take my dog, I go out for a walk, and it solves things, or I talk to people, or you find ways of dealing with that. And I've gone to this a few times in our conversations over the podcast. But one of the things was definitely looking at some of the problems that you're getting worked up over and just ask why. And like Shade said, it isn't black and white. There's more than just the do or do not in there. Sometimes it isn't as bad as you really look at it as. I was late for work the other day, and I hate to talk about that. I slept in by half an hour. I was panicking. I got to work. The manager said nothing. They didn't care.
Well, maybe they missed.
I don't like to promote that type of thing, but I mean, it wasn't worth getting worked up over because it was my pay I was losing. He didn't care.
Yeah.
Now I lost, and it's a little relieving. And if you don't relax yourself, your day doesn't really unwind, and you just be panicking, and then you can't do your job very well.
Yeah, I wish I had that kind of liberty because my job only lasts an hour. So if I miss half an hour, that's half an hour left. So
well, of course, that was the first time I had to get up to work for 9:30 in the morning in 2 weeks. My time schedule doesn't really work very well. I'm an insomniac. I can go days without sleeping, so maybe that's what I should have done that day. Well,
it's also if you're relaxing your mind, you train your mind to be more relaxed instead of getting worked up about the things that you cannot change anymore because they're in the past. You can take care of the things that you can change so much more easily, and you'll get to work faster with less effort and have more creative energy left when you arrive.
Learning how to unclutch your mind is actually one of the more powerful techniques that I've been learning in my meditation class. We have a tendency to connect all the negative things that happen in our lives and all the positive things. And when we connect all those things, it sort of just weighs down on us like a weight. If you learn how to just unclutch from those thoughts and just let every individual moment be its own individual moment, nothing really feels that heavy anymore. And it takes a while to learn, but it kind of goes along that same length. No matter what you're taking, if you know how to unclutch, then you can basically keep going throughout your day, even if a lot of stuff is pouring on top of you. You're just staying resilient because you're living in that moment. You're not connecting all those things and not bringing it down.
Exactly. That's a great point. You know what perfect example for that is, let's say that you like watching My Little Pony and you like your girl or boyfriend, and your girl or boyfriend breaks up with you. That's terrible, of course. But if you manage to sort of disconnect yourself from that while you're like watching My Little Pony, you can at least enjoy your experience with ponies and not associate all the good things that you've ever had previously, and then say like, well, I can't enjoy this anymore because my relationship is over. You know what I mean? If you manage to let everything be its own thing, if you can somehow manage to do that, and I think that's a gradual process. You can't just snap your fingers and make that happen. But as you learn through life, each thing you experience in life brings you closer to that point where you can let everything be its own entity and not let yourself be dragged down continually by things that have happened that you cannot change.
or the worry about what will happen in the future.
Oh, yeah.
People have a lot of anxiety about what may or may not happen in the future. And a lot of times you get this kind of sense of, is this really all that there's ever going to be, or everything's going to go wrong and things like that? And one of the things that I had to learn very much is that the future is always going to be unknown. You can say, with almost certainty that something may happen, but it's never 100% certain. And once you get the idea that it's not certain and just trying the best will most likely bring the best, that really helped me a lot on the way I thought. Anyways, sorry for derailing.
Well, no, that's perfectly on target. The positive productivity breeds better opportunities in the future. If you're letting sort of depression brings negative thoughts, and negative thoughts, if anything, are extremely limited thoughts. They're very narrow. So if you can't chop wood very well, you can spend your entire life focusing on the fact that you'll never be a lumberjack.
Oh,
Sarf,
no.
don't die.
I can't be a lumberjack. My life is ruined.
Sarf, you can't be a lumberjack. But you could, free your mind to discover you'll be great at sewing. Sarf, you'll be a great...
to the Canadian lumberjack.
Sarf, you'll be a great ice hockey player one day.
I hate hockey.
You'll love ice hockey, and you love eating poutine while riding a moose. Yes.
All right, we're breaking into stereotypes here. Okay, Shade, what's your nationality again?
He's Dutch.
Oh yes, I can talk Dutch accent if you like. I can do it again.
There's only two types of people I hate. People who are highly intolerant of other people's race, religion, and ideas, and the Dutch.
Hey, you already made that joke once. Or was it Sarf to make the joke?
Gotta love Austin Powers.
I've made that joke before. Anyways, let's get back on the topic.
Okay.
So,
I think the biggest thing is what we're kind of trying to talk about is a lot of times you see these threads and people talking and things like that on the internet, and it's all about being depressed and just, this happens, my girlfriend broke up with me here, and kind of what we're trying to say is there is an opposite end of that. You don't hear about it nearly as often as you should, as anyone should. But there is kind of a light at the end of that tunnel. There is a way out. Depression does end.
No storm lasts forever, and the sun will always rise.
Well, what I think contributes to this is that, especially when you are experiencing the utter despair of and the weight of the world and your mortality and all that, that's exactly the point. You'll be more inclined to blog about it and be very dramatic and such about it, and that's when you make your words carry all this weight. Whereas if you lighten up and you're feeling better, and in the long term, this is a gradual process. You don't feel inclined I feel slightly better today, I'm gonna blog about that in a very dramatic manner. I feel a little bit better today, world, listen to me. It doesn't really happen. Well, what I would recommend, if you are keeping contact with people who are clinically depressed or often inclined to be depressed or some such, or you're checking Tumblr and it's all depressing people or whatever. I think it's great to be empathetic with people, but just make sure that you keep yourself a little bit guarded and that you don't get lost in and start wallowing in it or something.
I think that has a big effect on mood.
Care.
It has a big effect on mood. The type of people you surround yourself with. If the people you're friends with, if the people you're always talking to are negative and pessimistic, I think I know far too many of those. That mood kind of reflects on you because you can kind of say, hello, how's it going? And be all happy and cheerful. And they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. And it rubs off on you. It does.
You carry it with you.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. But it also has the opposite effect. If you can be all happy and cheerful, you're happy and cheerful will rub off on them.
Exactly. I think the phrase goes, "A smile is something."
Well, you give a smile, and then maybe you'll get a smile, and that's just so special to me.
There you go.
Where did I hear that before?
Because I like to make you smile.
I think we should kind of wrap up soon.
Okay.
As a kind of last message to the viewers listening later, we are still planning our drunk tank, as it were, with Equestria After Dark admin something that I can't pronounce. Where is his name in my contacts list?
Wait. You
Alex
mean the
Straza. Yeah. It was kind of an
goody, fun.
It was an Anthony's idea to do, and we got
I'll make sure not to wear pants.
If you
Is that the episode where we can talk about chickening or something?
If you free Amonisis and maybe Shade, I don't know if I'm decided if I'm going to let you on or not.
No,
you guys are welcome to join, but we're kind of going to be discussing a few topics of the fandom probably, and it's going to be a good discussion, I'm hoping. Shuckle and maybe Bleeding Raindrops is going to join us. Maybe I can even convince Anthony to as well. We'll see how
we're talking Equestrian After the Dark, guys. The plot thickens.
The plot.
Oh my!
Oh dear!
I don't even know who these people are, but this is gonna be so filled with chickens.
It's gonna be different, that's for sure. And we can kind of wrap this up. This has been the advice column with Amonisis, SarfTheMagnifico, and some Dutch guy that kind of wandered onto our chat, and I suppose we kind of let it stay.
Yeah, that would be me.
That would be you.
So Sarf, how do people get in touch and all that? What do they do?
Oh,
what should they do?
What should they do? Well, if you make a very large purple flag and wave it across your house, I might see you from space.
You're in space, though.
I'll get on Google Earth shortly and look around for the purple flag.
Oh, alright, so the Equestria After Dark show is going to be broadcast from Mars. I see how it is.
Well, we're thinking the U.S. space station, but we haven't quite...
Oh, it's on the moon!
We have a Tumblr, ask-adviceandblog.tumblr.com. You can email me, SarfTheMagnifico@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Why are you doing this to me? You could email theoretically you could email the MLPC radio email, which, give me 1 second.
That will be a
radio@gmail.com, but chances of somebody checking it aren't going to be very high. You could find me in various...
Remember, guys, prove them wrong. Check it all the time.
You could attack one of us on the chat or something like that, but we'll handle questions, we'll handle even directed at us. If you guys want to have something towards us, we'd be perfectly willing. Maybe we'll have an episode.
So, how did you get the magnificent Canadian accent?
I have a picture. I think I took it on my phone, but I have on my wall big, large blue letters that says Sarf. And I got that 4 or 5 years ago from a project. And the Magnifico kind of came later, but I started using Sarf for everything. I use it as my PlayStation.
That wasn't the question at all.
The Magnifico, when I got my first laptop last year, it asked for the PC, and I went Sarf, the Magnifico. And it just kind of stayed from there, and I've used it on forums and posting and stuff like that. And it's a very unique name, and I think it works for its purpose.
And if you say it with the Italian accent, SarfTheMagnifico! Sounds very
Magnifico! Magnifico!
With gorgonzola, the olive, blah, 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 blah.
I think that's enough. Please settle down. No more. As well, we're also going to be kind of looking for anybody who wants to do a segment. Anybody has any ideas for segments? Any artists who would like to have their art featured on our YouTube banner. We have a Universal MLPC Radio YouTube now. Or even the threads. We're definitely looking for banners for that. That was for you too, Shade. I wasn't going to bother you again because you did one already, but you can definitely make us more. I'm not going to say no.
What do I do for this? What do I need to do?
We just need stuff. I'll send you details later.
Ponies?
Ponies. Exactly.
Of course.
Okay. Oh, I can do ponies.
I think that should wrap it up before we go.
No, you're forgetting one important thing.
Oh, goodness.
What do people need to do to give you loads of money? Where did you take this money?
You can take that money and shove it. No, I'm just kidding. You can donate it to food banks. You can donate it to mental health organizations. Don't give it to me. I don't want your dirty, filthy money. Not that it's dirty or filthy, but if you're shoving it somewhere, then I don't want it at all.
Okay.
Anyways, that had better conclude.